Hello. Today we want to look at some of the ideas of the Course regarding heaven and regarding the structure of reality. The Course differs greatly from world religions in these subjects. The Course is definitely unique in these subjects. Even though there are certain similarities between the Course and other mystical traditions of religions called the perennial philosophy, the Course is nevertheless unique in many aspects. And some of these aspects are not easy to get our minds around because we live in a dualistic world. We still believe we're bodies. We still believe the lies of the ego. And it's not easy to understand the reality that the Course is trying to give us. It is always important to remember that the Course is, as it says, a gift of God to His Son. And we have to enter into a certain kind of miracle readiness when we read the Course. It can't be read like other books. You can't just sit down and read it and expect to intellectually understand it and get something out of it. That's a waste of time. The Course will not even allow you to do that. It will be too demanding, it will be too threatening, and you'll put it away. So you have to find that preparatory state of miracle readiness in order to read the Course and to get what it's trying to give to you. You have to prepare to receive. And then everything it says, every sentence, can lead you to enlightenment. Every sentence. You don't have to go to the Ganges River. You don't have to go to Jerusalem. You don't have to go to a cave and live for 10 years as a hermit. Right here is the New Jerusalem. Right here is the Ganges. Right here, wherever you are. Because it's all about the mind. So the Course begins by telling us it's a non-dualistic system. It's a monistic system. That is, it does not view reality in separate parts as being part physical, part spiritual. It doesn't view reality that way. It says instead that that which is real is a state that it calls heaven. And heaven is not a place in the physical universe. It is a state of mind. And in that state of mind, there is God the Creator and His one Son. Now, this is partially described in myth because we cannot describe it in any other way. The human mind needs a certain literary vehicle to be able to get this. So don't try to take it too literally. But the truth is true. So in this heaven, there is one God who is the source of all things real, that is. And this one God is all-encompassing love. He is also light, which is love. And encompassed within that is all truth and all knowledge. This God is therefore a spirit, not a physical being. And He is also not a being. If he were a being, there would be parameters to Him. There would be an end to Him. And there is none. So He's not a being, He is being itself. There are no edges to God. He is all-encompassing, and we only say He for literary convention. There's no sex, no gender, he, she, it, that, all applies, but it's very discouraging to try to have to say he, she, it, that for every sentence we talk about. I don't mind to use she or it or that occasionally if you need that to understand that there's no gender, but the Course just disregards that and talks in terms of he and calls God Father, could also call God Mother. It's not necessary to look into the terminology with such literalness. Okay? So we will call by convention of language God as Him or Father. Those are the terms that the Course uses. So in this heaven, there is God, who is all-encompassing love, and the radiance of that love is what the Course calls His Son. Because in this spiritual universe that God has created, not this physical one, but in the spiritual universe that He created, He creates by extending Himself, by emanating from Himself. If we used an analogy, as poor analogy as it would be, from our physical universe, it would be like the physical sun, which radiates light from it. And the light which radiates from it would be like the sun, in the S-O-N sun, in the real universe. There is God who is love and light, and He radiates Himself, He extends Himself in creation. That extension of Himself is called in the Course the Son of God. Okay? And there is no separation between them. There is no place where the Son ends and the Father begins. They are totally one. And yet there is recognition that the Son is the extension of His Father. The Father is first cause, creator, and the Son is His extension. So there begins our look at this very different reality, quote unquote, than what we think of in our common sense physical world. Now, we've talked about the creation myth of A Course in Miracles and how this crazy fake world came into existence. It's a dream based on guilt, and a dream based on the crazy mad idea that the Son could somehow be different from His Father. But let's just backtrack that just a little bit and look at what the Course calls the tiny mad idea. So in this universe, the spiritual universe where God and His radiance or His Son exist, or it might be better to say they are existence rather than they exist. The Son, according to the myth, in quiet eternity where all was one, there crept into the mind of the Son the tiny, mad idea that He could somehow be different from His Father. And He forgot to laugh. Had He laughed at that and chuckled it off, it would have gone from His mind. Now you're going to ask, how could the Son of God have this crazy thought to begin with? If you get stuck in that, you're going to not get the benefit of the myth. It is a myth. It's designed to help you right now. And yet it is a true picture if we understand the picture. So if we want to put to rest your little wonderings about that, we would have to say that the mind of the Son had fallen into a little dream even before the tiny mad idea came into him. Because in his true state, at one with his Father, that tiny mad idea could not have come in. So the Son had already fallen into a little dream, and in that little dream came the tiny mad idea that he could somehow be different from his Father. And instead of laughing it off and awakening from that dream, there come into the dream two different voices. Crazy things happen during dreams, and it happened to the Son. So the first voice that comes into his dreaming mind is the ego. It says, "Look what you have done. You have separated yourself from your Father. You have left heaven. God gave you everything, and you have stolen the crown jewels. You have spit in His face, and do you think He is going to allow you to get away with that? He is going to hunt you down like the dog that you are and annihilate you." That's the first thought that comes into the dreaming Son's mind. The second thought that comes is the Holy Spirit. which is the remembrance of who he really is. And the Holy Spirit says to him, nothing has happened. This is a silly dream. You can wake up now. Now, why did the Son choose to believe the voice of the ego? Who knows? The point is, we're choosing that now. So it's not something that just happened in the past. It's an ongoing thing. The best we can say is, oops, the Son made a mistake while he was in the dream, and he chose to believe the ego. And believing the ego, then he felt himself to be sinful, because that's the term that the ego gave him, this dirty word, sin. You have spit in the face of God, and you have made God angry, which means that you could do something to change the divine. You could do something to change the foundation of being itself. And so the Son, in a manner of speaking, goes out of his own mind and projects a physical universe to enter, to hide from God. And as he enters this physical universe through the Big Bang, he splinters into zillions and zillions and zillions of pieces. Light, particles, matter, galaxies, planets, life forms, you and me. And each of those pieces now thinks it's separate and alone. They're all pieces of the Son, but the Son, in projecting himself into this crazy dream world, has also forgotten who he is. And each of those pieces now, instead of realizing that they are holographically the whole represented within them, because each of the pieces does contain the whole of the Son of God within them. But they've forgotten that. And they each think themselves guilty, sinful, and afraid. And they all think that they are on the lam from an angry God. Now, the ego, this becomes his heaven. This crazy dream world, miscreated by fear, becomes the ego's heaven. He loves it. And so the ego makes his own gods, and he makes his own ideas about heaven. And each of these gods that the ego makes is very dualistic. He only knows conditional love. You do what I say, and maybe I'll bring you to my heaven. You don't do what I say, and I will send you to the deepest hell. You will burn and fry forever. The ego is very dramatic about its crazy ideas about these gods. And the ego is likewise very crazy about its ideas of heaven. Its ideas of heaven are individuals, billions and zillions and quintillions of individuals existing in a kind of everlasting church meeting where you have nothing to do but walk on streets of gold and sing hymns for all eternity. Now, to anyone who's ever been in a church meeting that lasted longer than an hour, you would know that that image is not heaven. It would very quickly turn into hell. Very quickly. You think you can't wait to get out of church after it lasts an hour and a half? What are you going to do when it lasts 1 billion years? Okay? But this is the ego's crazy idea that he wants you to believe, that it wants you to believe, because the ego is not real, so we shouldn't say he. It wants you to believe that crazy idea. The real heaven, which is oneness, is all-encompassing love with no obstacles, no opposites, no observers, so there's no hindrances. And the radiance of God, his Son, is one with the Father. Now there's an idea which is hard for us to grasp in this physical dream world, but it has something to do with the awarenesses you have whenever you experience love's presence. If the barriers have ever dropped for you in this life, even for a moment, and you have experienced love's presence, that is sort of what heaven is like. Except it is like that without time. It exists without time. Time was created in this illusory world. We created it first as a device to stay away from God forever. There's a time. But then the Holy Spirit began to use time as a teaching device to enable us to use this world to awaken. There's the right-minded usage of the world as a classroom for our lessons, to learn who we are, to regain the memory of who we are, to remember heaven. And as we remember heaven, we forget the world. There's a variance of the universe. And it's not wrong. That is indeed what will happen when we have no more usage of this universe as a classroom. It will simply disappear, being nothing at all. In time, that's quite a ways away. In eternity, it's already happened. That's the great thing. So there's no question about the end. It's not threatened. The ending has already been written. But right now, in every moment, we have a choice to either experience love's presence by following the directions of the Holy Spirit, and thereby receiving already a foretaste of heaven, or we have the choice of the ego, to believe we're separate, to believe we're special, to hold grievances against those who we believe have harmed us, and maintain this world of dog-eat-dog. It's an illusion. It's not real. We are not really here, and we are not bodies. I am a spirit. I'm not a body. I am free, for I am just as God created me. And with that, we'll stop for the day.